it feels like every time we're doing it, we don't have anything that we're looking at. And even all the people who work on the show and animation are so excited to be on the show because it still feels like it's like it's just at the beginning of women really taking control in animation.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk. I appreciate it.
Sure.
I'd love to start off with just kind of, because we're going into season 2 here. Did you guys have plans for episodes while you were working on season 1? Or was it kind of like, once you got the green light, you were like, okay, now let's think about it?
Yeah, our passing ideas back and forth. We just kind of have this, master list that, we're constantly adding to. The sort of nice thing about episodic, animation is kind of once the characters click, it can kind of go forever. There are just like so many scenes that are really fun to see these characters' particular dysfunction in.
Yeah, we had just a big list. I mean, things we were excited about that we knew. We only did 7 the first time. We got to do 10. So we had like a few things that were like we wanted to get done, some of which we got in second season. But I mean, it's really the ideas for this come very quickly for us. Yeah.
What was it like when you were told you got a second season? Was that super exciting?
Yeah, no, I mean, for me, it was like my complete like goal in life was to make a half-hour animated show and then to make 2 seasons of that show. And now, of course, I want to make like 10 seasons of that show. But no, it was really like beyond. It just felt like the steepest. I mean, I always describe it as dragging a dead donkey to the top of the mountain. And I feel like we made it to the top of the mountain. Like it's just so hard. And I love donkeys. So that's really extra sad. Yeah.
How was it for you, Alyssa?
Oh, no, I mean, same. I think like the more you work on a show and kind of get to know the characters, especially adding like we have such an incredible core cast. So Baba's BB Newirth, Pete is Tim Robinson, Trophy's Maria Bamford, and Annie or Euthanasia is Joe Firestone. And they really, throughout kind of recording season 1 also sort of gave us like even more insight, and kind of like vectors of who these characters are. So I was just so happy that, we would get to sort of explore territory that we hadn't, that we would get to broaden the landscape of Fort Gator, that we would get to open sinkholes. There was just like so much, that we wanted to do. So yeah.
Annie gets to go to second base, which was a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what were you most excited to be able to explore further with these characters?
I mean, I think a lot of it, we did really want to get into Annie's like teen girl sexuality and sort of both them owning it and then society always trying to control it, like that push and pull. And then your mother, I have daughters, Alyssa has a daughter. So kind of, and we obviously were daughters, but so just, all of that was a big one that we just touched on the first time. Yeah, we really wanted to get sort of more into like Annie's group of friends. We introduced a group of like hag friends for Baba. That was like always part of it. And we were really excited to form the hags.
Yeah, I think the backstory too of like, we learn more about like where Baba, some of Baba's earlier years, some of Trophy's earlier, scenes and years. Yeah, so just kind of like also getting to know, these very weird characters better.
I love that, like, the idea is like these kids, you have to party. Like in that first episode, they're like, what do you mean? No. Like, you're a bad kid if you're just like smart and do your work. I thought that was so much fun. Can you talk kind of about the inspiration, particularly behind that episode? But that's probably one of my favorites. I really enjoyed it.
Well, thank you. That takes a page from my book. I have teenage daughters who started high school. I mean, we started this, they were like 10 years old. Now my oldest daughter's 16, the other one's 14. And was like constant when the oldest one started high school, I was like pressuring her. I was like, well, when's like, is there parties? Are you going? Like, is there alcohol? Like, like, you're not doing it right. Why are you home? And I was really pressuring her. And I felt, and then I have a really great group of friends from high school that like, I had this like fantasy of going back in. So it was both the time travel and pressuring your daughter. It's, I've been a part of a lot of really bizarre television experiences, but that episode is like the most personal thing I've ever actually made. It really is like ripped from my own life. And I'm glad you liked it, but yeah. And then the Florida part, because the other thing, we both have kids and they're constantly trying to make them resilient. And they're coming up with and then it became the pandemic and everyone had to like, okay, now we're all resilient now. But the, kind of the curriculum of resilience, we do a lot of stuff about public education. And that, I don't know, just sort of tracked that they in Florida would give all this money to this party curriculum at the expense of everything else.
Yeah, I went to University of Florida for college, and I'm a little more on the Annie side, and felt very much like I was, failing college, even though I was getting all A's, because it just seemed most people, it's a party school. Yeah, Florida loves a party.
Yeah, I have a 10 and a 12-year-old daughters. And so we're coming up on that. And I'm very much the same way. Even already, like in middle school, I'm like, what are you doing? Are you hanging out with your friends? Like, why are you sitting at home? So I related to that. And I'm like, this feels like that will be me when they get.
Yeah, I just like keep leaving a lot of those like alcoholic spritzers like in the fridge, like a lot. Like, I'm not keeping tabs of how many are in here. Like, I'm really not. I'm not going to give it to you, but if you take it without me knowing it, like that's your thing to figure out. But yeah, anyway.
I'm trying to push my daughter into like looming, and like yarn crafts. Yeah, I'm on the other end.
The opposite side. Yeah, I remember that. That's funny you mentioned like wine spritzers. Like I remember having my friends over in high school and we're like, my mom has so many of these in the fridge. If we share one, she'll never know. It's so funny.
Yeah, I think mine are all still in there. My kids are, I don't know. I think they like a reactionary the other way. Yeah, it's a lot of ACT studying happening in my house. Yeah.
One of the things I love about this show too is like all of the female friendships that we get to see and the female relationships, like mother and daughter, but then friends as well. Can you talk about just like, putting females at the front of this and their relationships with each other?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to see kind of, the ones that we hadn't seen, like all too often, like mother-daughter relationships that are explored or like very like after school specialty, or just sort of like have this, kind of sense of, where either everything's perfect or it's like, they're estranged, and like the sort of like whole thing is, okay, well, cut them out, forever. But not sort of like this like active livable dysfunction, kind of that our characters thrive in and just sort of like all of like the intergenerational messages that, like Baba and Trophy and Annie have received about like what a woman should be and like how to make it through the world as a woman and like, the ways that like you cope and what your goals are, it's very different for each of them, because like they've each sort of been raised in a different generation. So that was something, that I think is like really fun for us to draw upon and highlight, of just kind of like, oh, okay, like when Baba, was in school, like she welded a chastity belt, for sex ed, like, like Annie's in school now, they're very pro sex, like Trophy, had this like shame-based curriculum, so it's like all of like the different, generational views that kind of have something to say about social messaging in women.
And just felt like there hadn't been an animation, especially like I don't know, like a true deep dive and like I feel like our show, this isn't like a part of the show or a character of the show. It's like all of the show, and like to have so many female characters, and design them to look all different, and we cast very wide, and just like a big kind of expansive idea of being a girl or a woman. And it's, I don't know, it feels like every time we're doing it, we don't have anything that we're looking at. And even all the people who work on the show and animation are so excited to be on the show because it still feels like it's like, it's just at the beginning of women really taking control in animation.
So you guys kind of talked about the cast already a little bit, which I think they're amazing. But does it kind of feel like with season 2, maybe they're settling into the characters more? Maybe they give more ideas to you guys and kind of, bring something to the table themselves?
Yeah, I mean, BB Newirth will actively rewrite us, which is like, I love, and we love it, like she's always right. She's always like, Baba wouldn't say it this way. She would say it, this way. And we're like, that's totally correct. We're so sorry. Like, wonderful. Yeah, I mean, it really is kind of like a collaboration with all of them. And so often also it's just kind of like, the ad lib things that, like they're like sticking in between or coming up with, or just like the sounds or, like we have such good screamers. Like between Tim, and Maria, like, my good, like they're probably two, I would say, of like the top comedic screamers, potentially of all time. And, to harness that power is just incredible.
I think they are also all very, very funny. And so it makes us make sure the scripts are as good as they can be. And like when they're laughing, like when we're doing it or when they're reading it and like reading through the lines and laughing ahead of time, it's like, okay, I know it's good enough. I really respect all of them. And Firestone writes a lot with us and as well, and has been a part of the show from the very beginning. So it feels like she's, deeply part of the processes.
Mm-hmm. And then
hard to make meekness funny, I think very few, the bar of difficulty on that is otherworldly. I think Joe Firestone's one of the only
I think last week she has this line like I had a lot of soup for breakfast and like I posted it and like just the way she says a lot of soup, like a lot, like you would feel that. I'm not sure, like we could try to do scratch or something like that, but I don't, she is so good at doing Annie.
Yeah. I love that. So I know it's probably hard to choose, but do you guys have like a favorite episode of season 2?
It is really hard to choose. I mean, I sometimes like the ones that are the hardest to pull off. Like either they had some problem along the way. The one we had, Radio Frankenstein, where Scott Adsit plays the reanimated delivery driver that Trophy brings back to life, and that one was for some reason just like from the script on out really hard to put together. And I think it turned out really, really well. A lot due to how well Scott Adsit performs Frank. He just becomes like the most lovable character ever. And so that's like a kind of a deep favorite of mine, I think, just because it was maybe the hardest to put together.
Yeah. I mean, I really love them all. We were able to get such good guest stars, this season as well. Like every single episode is, just like this, treasure trove. The episode this week, I don't know when this will, post, but, has like Kristen Milioti as like a busty serial, killer named Jigsaw, like next week's episode, like Sharonis Jackson is this like, millionaire whose kink is women who are about to die, so he likes to marry you like right before you die. Like just, really, like they're just such different treats, and apples and oranges. It's really lucky, that I can kind of watch everyone and it can kind of be my favorite as I'm watching it.
Well, congratulations on the show, guys, and congratulations on season 2. Hopefully many more seasons because I'm really digging it. And thank you for your time today. I appreciate it.